Hey everyone, welcome to second lecture of DOM. So if you remember yesterday, we have taught you about color catching element by ID, right? So we catch element by its ID. So I'll open a script tag. Suppose if I have some H1 tag, okay, and Masai school. So if I have some ID for that, so ID equal to Masai, okay. So how to catch this ID now? So what can I do is I can store in some variable where x is equal to document dot get element by ID. So what is the ID name we have? Masai. So now if I do console log x, so I will get the entire element or entire tag in the console. So let's open the console once. So I'll copy this path and then I'll open my browser. So go to console, click on inspect and click on console. So I'm getting the entire H1 tag. So if you remember the selectors class, so we have seen so many ways of catching any element like class selector, ID selector, tag selector, right? But in this place, we saw only how to catch it by its ID. So we also have methods for catching based on class name, and so we'll see something based on class names and then based on tag names. And also we'll see how to catch by using some combinators also. Okay, so we also saw combinators, right, in CSS. So we'll see all these things. So first we'll see how to catch elements by its class. So now I'll remove this. So now instead of ID, I will have some class. Okay, so I'm changing the ID to class now. So I'm having class of Masa. So now I want to catch this H1 tag based on its class name. Okay, so if you remember, the classes are not unique, right? So we can have multiple classes. So the syntax for catching this is get element by not element. So now we have some multiple elements, right? So class is not unique. So we can have multiple elements with different same classes. So it will be elements. So elements by class name. So make sure you're following the correct syntax, this camel case, so that it will not throw any error. And you should write the class name in here. Okay, so now I'll write some variable where x is equal to document dot get elements by class name. What is the class name we have now? Masai. So now when we catch the element using ID, so we got only one result, right? Because ID is always unique to you. So you'll have only one element with any ID. But when coming to class name, you can have multiple elements, right? So now your output should consist of some multiple elements. So whenever you want multiple elements, it will be given in form of array, right? So now let's check for console. So console.log of x. So now if I refresh it, so can you see now you're getting some collection. So collection in the sense it is a kind of an array. So can you see the length of this collection? Length is 1. What is the length in here? So we have only one element with class of Masai. Suppose if I have another element, okay, and I will write Chandrasekhar, my name, okay. And if I write the same class, so I'm using the same class is equal to, it's a mistake here. So I'm writing class is equal to Masai. So now how many elements we have with class Masai? We have two elements, right? So now my collection would consist of two array elements. If I refresh my page, so can you see I'm getting two array elements. So whenever you get elements by class name, so you will get array of elements. Okay. So that is the first thing you need to understand. While getting element by ID, you will get only single element because ID is unique. But while getting elements by class name, we can get multiple class names because class names are not unique. So I can do whatever you want. Suppose if I write x dot length, so I will get length of this array. So it is 2. Okay. Suppose if I want to get only the first H1, only this H1, I want only the H1. So if I do console log x, I'm getting both H1 and H2, but I want only H1. So how can I access it? So if you see this array, right? So how can I access first index or zeroth index of an array? So simply write x of 0. So in this fashion, you can get only the first H1 now. So if I refresh the page, you'll get only first H1. If I want the second H1, so you can also use X of 1 here. So now you'll get second H1, second H2 also. So now can you use a for loop for this? Instead of writing 2 times, can you also use a for loop? So for let I equal to 0, I less than X dot length and I plus plus. So now what should I do? So console dot log X of I. So I'm getting both X of 0 and X of 1. Okay. So it's running until 2 times because X dot length is 2. So now if I refresh my page, I'll get both both H1 and H2. So in this fashion, you can catch the elements based on its IDs. Okay. So now suppose we want to catch element based on tag names. So so if you see, tag names are also not unique, right? So can you guess the syntax of this now? So get elements by tag name. So now also we are writing elements because we can also get multiple tags, right? Same as classes. Tag names also not unique. So we can have multiple tag names with same tags, right? So now if I write one more H1, I am adding 1. So now I want to get the element by tag name. So I want to get the tag of H1. So what is the syntax for that? What can I write? So I can write something like where y is equal to document dot get elements by tag name. So now I'm getting tag name. So I want tag name of H1. Okay. Now if I do console log y. So what is the length of this y now? Can you guess? So we have two H1. So I will get two array collection or two HTML collection. Can you see this? I'm getting HTML collection of two. First one is H1 Masai and second H1. Suppose if I do y dot length, so I will get the length as 2. So tag name works same as class names. We can use for loop for tag names also same as class names. Okay. So in this fashion, you can catch element by class names, tag names, and by using IDs. Cool. So now we will see one more thing here. So I can also catch by its element. So I can also do y of 0. You'll get first y means first H1 and y of 1 give second H1. So similar to this class names. So now let us see something known as styling. Okay. So previously you used to style elements in style tag, right? So suppose if I have some, I'll copy this path. Okay, cool. Suppose if I have some H1 tag, Masai School. Okay. Suppose if I want to style this H1. So what can I do? So simply write style and H1. I'll write some background color teal. Okay. Now if I refresh my page, I'll get it. Now, what if I want to style it dynamically? So dynamical in the sense, what if I want to style from JavaScript? Okay. So what if I want to do that? So I can also style the same things using JavaScript. So how can I do that? So first write a script file. Okay. So first you need to catch this H1 tag, right? It's because you want to style this H1 tag. So you need to catch the H1 tag. So how can I catch that? And also for styling, you can also use inline style, right? You used to use inline style like this. Style is equal to background color teal. So I use this in the first class while styling anything. So what is a style for this H1? Style is one kind of an attribute or object, right? So you'll see how can we achieve this. So now let's catch this H1 tag. So how can I catch? So where heading is equal to, so can I catch by using tag name directly? So, or else I can catch it by IDs for now. So I will do ID equal to heading head. Okay. So how to catch it? So document dot get element by ID head. So we got the element heading. So if I do console log heading, I'll get the entire H1 here. Okay. So now I want to style this H1 tag or style this heading. So how can I style it? So there is one method for this called as styling. So you can write heading dot style. So we are making this heading, we are giving a style to it. So what is the property you want to style? So you want to style with background color. So background. So you should not write something like this while you used to write in CSS. So you should not keep any colon. It should be camel case. So it should be like something like this, background color equal to teal. So now if I refresh my page, I get the background teal. Can you see that? So you can use something called style dot background color is equal to teal. So you can style whatever you want. So you can't keep multiple styles at one place. If you want to give some color, you need to write in the next line. So adding dot style dot color is equal to white. So now I will get color as white. Okay. So if I want to give some font size, so adding dot style dot font size equal to around if I give 10 pixel. So I'll get only 10 pixel. Can you see that? So in this fashion, you can use this style attribute to style whatever tags you want. Okay. So we will dive deep into this when coming to some applications to it. But this is the basic thing on how to style anything. Okay. So you can apply whatever properties you learned in CSS like font weight, font family, or whatever properties you saw in CSS. So now let's overview all the methods which we have seen till now. So we'll see first. So we learned something. Sorry, I'll write script file. So first you saw get element by ID. Okay. So what is the syntax for this? I'll copy this path. So get element by ID, you're calling document dot get element by ID and you're passing ID name here. Okay. And how can you what is the other thing you saw? So get elements by class name. So what is syntax for this? So similar to this, but get elements by class name and you should pass in the class name here. So similarly for tag name. So if you see the tag name, so get elements by, so instead of class, you need to write tag name. So document dot get elements by tag name and you will pass the tag name, right? Cool. So, but for this, we are using three different methods for catching three different kind of things. For catching by ID, we are using get element by ID. For class name, we are using get element by class name. And for tag name, we are using by tag name. So this is one some difficult task for you to write each and every method differently. So now to ignore this, we have one more method known as query selector. Okay. So we are selecting a query. We are simply selecting a query and we are giving a query inside. So we'll see the syntax of it. So query selector will take, so the syntax is something like document dot query selector and we will pass the selector here. So selectors can be anything. So what are the various selectors we saw in CSS? So selectors can be tag selector, ID selector, class selector, universal selector, and also some can also use combinators inside. Okay, these selectors can be anything. So now using this document.query selector, we can select whatever you want. We can select by ID, by class name, by tag name. So now by using this, no need to use these three things differently, separately. So no need to use ID separately, class separately. Suppose if I have some h1 tag, Masai school. Okay. Now I will give some ID to it, ID equal to Masai, and also I'll give some class to it. Class is equal to school. Now I will catch this element based on three different things. Okay, based on ID, based on class, and based on this tag. So we can see what is the advantage of using query selector. So first I will write where x is equal to document dot query selector. Now first I will select based on its tag name. So what is the tag name here? H1. Okay. Now if I do console log x. So previously when you are doing get elements by tag name, so what is the output you're getting? You're getting HTML collection, right? You're getting array. Now let's see what we're getting for this query selector also. So what you're getting here, you're getting only one element, right? You're not getting array of elements. So I will get back to this why you are getting only one element. So now we'll see how to get by its ID. So where y is equal to document dot query selector. Now I'll give ID here. So while doing this method get element by ID, we are directly giving the ID name, right? We are not giving any symbol or nothing because we are already specifying that we are giving ID. But when you're specifying, when you're giving selector, you need to specify the selector name, right? So if you simply give Masai, so it won't get that you're using ID or class. So you need to specify the symbol. So what is the symbol used for ID? Hashtag. So we need to give hashtag. So now if I do console log by, so now you will get again H1 because we are selecting the same H1 for ID also. Now I want to select by its class name. So how can I select? So document dot query selector class name. So what is the class name? School. So for class we need to use dot. So dot school. Now if I do console log Z, so again I will get the H1 tag. So in this way you can select one tag using three different ways by using query selector, using tag, using ID, and using class also. So there is one other thing in this query selector, that is one disadvantage we say, or not disadvantage, it's kind of this behavior. So suppose if I have one more H1 tag, okay, I am adding one, okay, and one more H1 tag, I am adding one, okay. So now I'm removing all these things, everything. So now what I will do is, so I will do query selector for this. So where heading is equal to document dot query selector, and I will select query using its tag name now. If I write H1, okay. Now what I will do is I will refresh my page one so I can see the I am three things. So what I will do is I will do heading dot style dot background color is equal to red. So now basically what you should get, so while you're selecting query selector all, while you're selecting all the tag names, so you should get here three tag names, right? So how many tags we have here as H1? We have three tags. So the length should be three, heading length should be three. So basically you should get background color for all three H1s, right? Basically by default, you should get for all the H1s because we are selecting H1 here. So we need to get all the H1s. But see now what is happening here. So what is happening in this case? So only the first H1 is getting selected or getting targeted. Okay. So one thing with query selector is query selector will only return the first element that matches. Okay. So query selector will return only first element. Okay. That matches the selector that matches. Suppose see now I have some P into some 10 tags. Okay. I will write P1, P2, P3, P4, and so on. Okay, I'll give only four tags for now. So I'm having some four P tags. So now I will select this P tag. So where para is equal to document dot query selector. I'm selecting P by tag name. Okay. Now I will write para dot style dot background color is equal to pink. So now basically I should get for all the P tags, but we are using query selector, right? So what query selector will do? It will return only the first element that matches. So if I refresh it, so now you can see you're getting only background pink for only first P. So that is one of the property of query selector, one of the how it behaves. So it will take only the first element that matches. Okay. So I can also take some IDs in a similar fashion. Suppose I'll take a class. So suppose if for this P also I have a class of school. So now have H1 also class school and P also class school. So now I will write some variable x is equal to document dot query selector. Now I'll use class selector dot school. Okay. Now I'll do x dot style dot font size is equal to, I will write around 50 pixels. So now basically dot school has two elements, P and H1. But now if I refresh my page, I will get only for this H1, not for P, because it is selecting only the first element that is matching. Okay. So you can also use combinators in query selector. So how can you use combinators? Suppose if I use, so where y is equal to document dot query selector. Okay. And I'm using general sibling selector. So what I will do is I will write h1 tilde p. So what h1 tilde p means? So h1 tilde p should basically select all these p's, right? Because all these are general sibling selectors. So now let's see why what it is selecting. So I will write y dot style dot y dot style dot font or font size. Font size is equal to, I'll give around 60 pixel. So now basically I should get font size of 60 pixel for all the piece, right? Because I'm giving general sibling. But what happens? We are using query selector. So if I refresh my page, so can you see you're getting 60 pixel only for the first P, because query selector is only selecting the first P that is matching. Okay. So in this way, you can also use all these combinators. So whatever combinators you learn, you can use all the combinators here. Okay. Suppose if I write body greater than h1. So body greater than h1 should give me how many h1s? 3 h1s. But now for first h1 only, I will get font size 60 pixel. Can you see that? So I can also write body greater than p. So body greater than p will select all the p's, but using query selector, we'll only select the first p. So again, I will get p as 60 pixel. So in this fashion, you can use this combinators also. Okay. But what is the disadvantage here? Because we are getting only the first element, right? We're not getting all the elements. So to get all the elements, we have one more method known as query selector, query selector all. So Q is small here. So what query selector all will do? So query selector all will set all the elements that matches, not only the first element. Query selector written on the first element, but query selector all will return all the elements. So now let's suppose I will comment these things out. Okay, or else I will remove this. So now let's see. So where x is equal to document dot query selector all, and I am writing h1. So now if I do console log x, so can you guess what is the length of this x now? So how many h1s are there in our code? There are 3 h1s, right? So can you guess the length of this x? Yes, it is 3. Okay, can you see it is having length of 3 here. So if I do x dot length, I will get 3. Suppose if I write p. So now what is x dot length? It should be 4, because we are having 4 p tags. So it is setting all the 4 p tags. Okay. So now how to catch the first p tag out of that? So can you do x of 0 in this case? So x of 0 will give you only the first p tag, p1. So now can you style all these things? So can I style x of 0 dot style dot background color equal to red. So now for the first p1, I will get background color red. Similarly for second p1, if I want for second p1, I will write x of 1. I'll get for second p1. Okay. So can you use for loop instead of writing each and everything separately? So you can also use for loop for this. So for where I is equal to 0, I less than x dot length, I plus plus, and you can write x of I dot style dot background color is equal to red. So now for all the p's, you will get background color as red. Okay. So in this fashion, you can use this query selector for selecting all the elements. Suppose instead of p, if I write h1, so what will happen now? So now will I get all the h1s as background color red? So if I refresh my page, I will get all h1s because I'm selecting all the h1s here. So can I also use now combinators? If I use body greater than h1, so now will I get the only first h1 or all the h1s? I get all h1s, right? Because I'm using query selector all. So if I refresh, output will be same. If I write body greater than h1, body greater than p, so now I'll get all p's. Suppose now if I write the same thing, h1 tilde p. So what h1 tilde p does previously for query selector, it only selected the first p, right? But with query selector all, it will select all the p's. There is no change out. Okay. So in this fashion, query selector all will select all the elements that it is matching. The reverse way of query selector. The query selector will only get the output or only return the element which matches first. So that is the basic difference between query selector and query select all. Okay, cool. So now there is one more concept here that is known as, so we'll see that. So if you remember in the first class, we have some function where we have a button. Okay, and we wrote like me, and I wrote some on click for this. On click is equal to like function, right? So I wrote something like this, and now I went into script and I wrote so function like function, and I wrote console log inside like function, right? So we wrote something like this, or we done something like this in the first class, in the first session. So now if I click on like me, I'll get in the console as inside like function. So now suppose if you have some 100 buttons like this, okay, and writing on click for all the tags, or in we are writing on click inside the tags, right? So it is not recommended to write JavaScript inside HTML. Okay. So for this, for ignoring this or to rectify this, we have one more thing known as add event listener. Okay. So add event listener. So what is on click here? So on click is basically event, right? I told you this is basically an event. So can you add event using JavaScript? We can add that. So syntax is first you need to catch the button. So how to catch the button? So document dot. Can you use query selector now? Query selector. I'm using tag selector button dot. I'm adding event listener to the button. So add event listener. And what is the event here? So event is click, right? On click. But while writing in JavaScript or while writing add event listener, you should not write on here. Okay. You should write only as click. Okay. So add event listener will take two parameters inside this. First one is event name. Okay. And second one is function name. Whatever function name you have. So here, what is the event name is click, and what is the function name? Function name is like function. Okay. So now if I remove this on click inline, so I should get the same output. So if I refresh the page, if I click on like me, I'll get the same function. So instead of writing this on click inline or on click inside this HTML tag, so I can also add an event listener to it and then write it. Okay. So this is the basic, this is the other way of writing a click event. So there are so many events other than click. So we'll see some of these events in live class, but you can also refer to the documentation ones regarding various click events. Okay. So that's all for today's session. Thank you.